Welcome to Jargon with Jarg. That guy Nealon, so mysterious. He's always using terms no one understands. But guess what? I've outsmarted him. I've been taking notes and watching him. So, if you stick with me, I'll tell you what all those big words that make no sense that he speaks of mean. The terms we'll be discussing are business intelligence, biz, process automation, DB design, QA, SQL, or SQL, database, relational database, ETL, and cubes. So the first word Nealon used was business intelligence. So, what I gather is that business intelligence is basically strategies and technologies for looking at business information and getting ideas from them to help improve business operations. So, it's basically using information and analyzing it and then making decisions based on that information. Another word I overheard Nealon saying was BIDS. BIDS is short for Business Intelligence Development Studio. These are a set of tools released by Microsoft for dealing with data. It is now called, these days, SQL Server Data Tools. The name changed. The SSDT package includes SSIS, or SQL Server Integration Studios, which is used for pulling data from different sources and modifying it. SSAS, SQL Server Analytics Studios, which is used for creating cubes, and SSRS, which is used for creating reports. Process automation was another word Nealon used. I think the term's kind of self-evident, but I thought I would explain it anyways in case you got confused. Oftentimes, you'll have a process that has a lot of human intervention in it, whether it is data input, pulling data from different sources, or validating data and stuff like that. What process automation does is take the human out of the process or minimize their intervention. In this way, it'll reduce the risk of errors and speed up the delivery of services and overall reduce workload. Another crazy word that Nealon guy used was QA. QA is an acronym or short for quality assurance. These are basically the tasks in which people called the QA guys, they go in and they check over the coder's work to make sure it does what it needs to be done. Because if you got a piece of code that does things so quickly and deals with tons of information all at once and there's something wrong with it, it's going to make a mistake big. So these guys are pretty important. And they prevent those big mistakes from happening. Next word, SQL, short for Structured Query Language. This is the language you will be using to query databases, relational databases. The dialect of SQL that Nealon's going to teach you is called T-SQL and works with SQL Server. There are other dialects like MySQL, PostgreSQL, PL SQL, and many more. They all have their unique differences, strengths, and weaknesses. By query, what I mean, and this is probably where that crazy guy Neil will throw out later on, is get data and manipulate data in a database, which I will explain later what a database means. The database, basically the central concept of all Nealon's lecture. A database is basically a program that runs on your computer that stores data, allows it to be organized and accessed. Another term related to databases you might hear is the database management system. This is basically a program that interacts with the database and the user. It's like a go-between. What this allows is for the user to interact with the database and view the database data, update it, and perform other operations on the database. It's like a middle layer which the user goes through in order to, it's like a keyboard, which it's like what a keyboard is to a computer. A database management system is to a database for a human. A relational database is basically a database type which stores data in tables. Not all databases store databases in tables, only the ones that are called relational databases. Where the relational comes from is that the tables are associated with each other or related to each other, and those relations are defined. Neil will be probably talking about that later, but it's something to keep at the back of your head since it seems to be a key concept. SQL Server is an example of a relational database. Other relational databases are MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, and many others. They're by far one of the most popular types of databases. Some examples of non-relational databases are NoSQL databases, Hadoop, and quite a few others. But I won't get into that. ETL, another word he used and wasn't clear about. It's short for, or an acronym for, extract, transform, and load. Basically what this means is to pull data, manipulate it into a form you want, and then put it into a database. That's all that ETL means. So you're basically getting data, playing with it, and storing it in a database, or pulling data from a database. Any manipulation with data is pretty much considered ETL if it's going between data sources. I pulled a Neil in earlier and used the word cube without explaining what it was. A cube in SQL Server, also known as a multi-dimensional cube, pulls OLAP data, which will be discussed later. It's basically an analytical database, and creates extra data that allows that data to be accessed almost instantaneously. Why do we need cubes? It's because as relational databases get extremely large, performing operations on them and pulling that data out can actually become very slow. So cubes offer another way in order to view vast amounts of data. I mean like terabytes, petabytes, millions of petabytes of data in a faster way. But Neil will probably be discussing that later. So, I guess this is all for now. Maybe if he pulls a tricky word game again, I'll come back. But I hope you learned something and now you could sort of understand that crazy guy's language.